The vote was quick, hands raised around the polished oak table. Her father first, then her mother, then her. My wife's hand lingered in the air, fingers trembling, not from guilt, but eagerness. The lawyer cleared his throat. Unanimous. You're out. I didn't speak, didn't fight, didn't even blink. They expected rage, begging, a man clawing for his crown. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands, and smiled. That smile froze the room. They thought it was weakness disguised as composure. They thought they had won. By the time the clock struck midnight, they believed I'd be pacing my study in despair, staring at old photos of board meetings, sipping bourbon to drown the humiliation. But at midnight, I wasn't staring at old photos, I was signing. And at 8 a.m., when their assistant tried to log into the company servers, the system rejected her, then him, then her father. Error message, access denied, again and again. By 8:07, their lawyer's face had drained to paper white, because by 8:01, everything they thought was theirs was no longer theirs at all. It hadn't started that morning. Betrayal is never born in daylight. It festers in the shadows, growing roots in silence. I had seen the signs months earlier. The hushed dinners with her father when I wasn't invited, the misfiled financial documents that landed on my desk, missing a zero here, a line item there. The way my wife stopped looking me in the eye when I asked about strategy meetings. They wanted me gone. The man who built the company from nothing. The man who brought her family out of their crumbling estate into power. But betrayal cuts deepest when it's not just business. It was the way she touched his wrist at the boardroom table, her father's wrist, signaling him when to speak. The same subtle touch she once used on me under dinner tables, telling me when to hold silence, when to strike. I realized then, I was no longer her partner. I was her pawn, a stepping stone to her family's empire. And pawns are meant to be sacrificed. I didn't confront her, not yet. Rage is wasteful when patience is power. Instead, I observed, quietly. I traced every transaction, every whispered call, every email routed through their private servers. At night, when she thought I was asleep, I heard her slip into the bathroom, the faint murmur of her voice carrying through the door. Her father's name, her mother's wafter, their lawyer's cautious tones. I never interrupted. I let her believe I was blind. Meanwhile, I made calls of my own, not to friends, not to allies, but to enemies. Men her father had crossed, partners her mother had cheated, rivals they mocked in closed rooms. I offered them what they craved most, access. Piece by piece, I moved my shares, slowly, invisibly. They thought I was too distracted to notice the trap closing around me. But the trap was mine. And when the night of the vote arrived, I walked into that boardroom knowing the outcome, knowing their hands would rise, knowing I would smile. Because I already knew what would happen at 8 a.m. The lawyer was the first to understand. His hand trembled as he refreshed the server screen again, his lips parting, dry and pale. "Access denied," he whispered. Her father leaned over his shoulder, barking orders. "Try again." Her mother gripped her pearls so tightly I thought they'd snap. And my wife, she looked at me. Finally, she looked at me. Her eyes were wide, searching my face for some sign of weakness, some crack in my mask. But I only met her gaze with silence. The lawyer stammered, He sold every share, overnight." The room froze. Her father roared. Her mother gasped. My wife's lips parted, but no words came. She had voted me out of the company I built, and I had sold it to their fiercest rival before they could touch it. Their empire wasn't just collapsing, it had been handed over. I stood, slow and deliberate. The chair legs scraped against the floor, echoing like a blade drawn in silence. Her father lunged forward. "You fool! You've destroyed everything!" Her mother hissed, "You'll regret this." But it was her I watched, my wife, the woman who raised her hand against me without hesitation. I leaned toward her, just enough for her to feel the words cut across the air. "You never understood, did you? I didn't build the company for you, or for them. I built it because I could, and because I knew, one day, I might need to burn it down." Her face crumbled, not in rage, not in fury, but in fear, because she knew now. I wasn't begging to stay in her empire. She was watching me walk away with the ashes. I didn't wait for their screams to fade. I didn't wait for their lawyer to collapse into excuses. I simply walked out of that boardroom, one step after another, my shoes striking the marble floor like a countdown. For years I had carried them, funded them, loved her, and for months I had watched the betrayal form behind their careful smiles. Now I carried nothing, not rage, not grief, not love, only silence, only freedom. The company was gone, the marriage was gone, the wake was gone, and as the elevator doors closed, I realized something sharp, almost clean. They thought they had buried me, but I had buried them first. Final line, and when the doors opened again, I stepped into a world where their names no longer mattered.